Hello YouTube and welcome back to another book review from me, your host, Logan Albright. Today I am reviewing a short story collection that my sister got me as a present. Very kind of her, thank you. It is called Stories of the Sea. It's by the Everyman Library, Everyman Pocket Library. This is a cool publisher. I have quite a few of their books and they're always good quality hardcovers, usually pocket-sized, good for carrying around with you. If you're like me, you like to carry around a little book with you wherever you go, and sometimes you don't want to bring a bag or anything, so you just stick it in your pocket. Nice to do, especially when fall comes, which is coming soon, and you can wear a jacket everywhere you go and just stick something in the jacket pocket. It's hard to do in summer when you're just wearing a t-shirt. But anyway, my sister knows that I am fascinated with the ocean and the sea and nautical things. I find the whole world of nautical kind of imagery, and it's just deeply beautiful, deeply majestic, deeply romantic, deeply mysterious, and deeply frightening. It's an incredible thing, the ocean. It's the final frontier on Earth of the unexplored. There's stuff down there that we have no idea about still. There's still places of it where we can't reach, even with the greatest technology that we've been able to come up with yet. It's amazing, and every time I'm by the ocean, I'm always awestruck by it, and I love it. So I like to read sea stories, and this is a nice little collection. This collection contains 18 stories. It's fairly short, but they're, it's a good variety of stories. And they come from all different time periods. They come from all different countries. They come from different styles of writers. But all the writers most of the writers are pretty well known. There was only one story in here that I had read before, which was A Descent into the Maelstrom by Edgar Allan Poe. I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan, so glad to see that included. And I did reread it. Very good. It remains a good story. But I was not familiar with the rest, although I was familiar with many of the writers. It's divided up into 4 sections, which I found a little bit arbitrary. They didn't seem to be that thematically linked, but the 4 sections in this one are Dangers of the Deep, Voyages of Discovery, Survival at Sea, and The Call of the Sea. The Call of the Sea and Voyages of Discovery are a little bit similar. I don't know. I didn't really get the whole theme of the different sections, but all the stories were good. Let me go through some of the authors that are represented here, from old to new, from classic to a little bit less well-known, and talk about them. Who do we have? We have Ray Bradbury, always a great short story writer. I'm not as much of a fan of him, his novels. I like his short stories, but I'm not as much a fan of his novels, although I do love Fahrenheit 451. We have Rudyard Kipling, Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson, Ernest Hemingway, and Saki. So a lot of kind of older writers, but very good writers. And then in the Voyage of Discovery section, my favorite story in the collection was by Doris Lessing, who I had not heard of before. Doris Lessing won the Nobel Prize in Literature, and I learned about her after this because I enjoyed the story. She has a story included called Through the Tunnel, which is, I think, my favorite story in the collection. It is about a young boy on vacation in this coastal area with his mother, and he observes the native boys diving down into the water and coming up on the other side of the seawall, and he finds that there's a tunnel underneath, but it's very deep and it's very long, and you have to be able to hold your breath for a long time to get through it. And he becomes obsessed with trying to get through this tunnel and learning to hold his breath as long as the local boys can and get through it without drowning. It's a really great story, and it kind of goes back to one of the things I like about short stories. It's something that I'm really coming to embrace about short stories more and more as I get older and I read more, is that they don't really have to be about anything spectacular. A short story doesn't have to have an incredibly clever idea or a big twist or anything like monumental happening in them. They can be just little slices of life. And if you write truly and you write honestly, you're going to come up with some insights about human nature and humankind. And I think that this story really captures that very well, even though it's, a fairly inconsequential event. But it made me want to read more of Doris Lessing. And in fact, the next book that I'm going to be reviewing on this channel is a Doris Lessing book, so stay tuned for that next week. But I've been writing more short stories myself, and I'm trying to kind of embrace that mindset, because when I first started writing short stories years ago, I really thought, I had read a lot of like Arthur C. Clarke and Philip K. Dick and science fiction short story writers, and I had the idea that short stories had to be like a little Twilight Zone episode, where you have to like have a twist at the end, and you have to have something crazy happen. And now I like these much more meditative, slice of life kind of short stories. So I'm trying to write more of those myself, and doing collections of those and trying to work on them every day. So that's a lot of fun. Let's continue on. John Updike. I've never read John Updike before, but he was good. Kurt Vonnegut, Patricia Highsmith, who I don't know, Stephen Crane, who I don't know, Jack London. I love Jack London. His stuff is great. Joseph Conrad, who I also really like. Robert Owen Butler, who I had not heard of, but I really like this story. The story of his is called Titanic Victim Speaks Through Waterbed, and it's about the narrative of someone who perished on the Titanic, and it's like their spirit talking about it afterwards. A really interesting story. And then the final section, The Call of the Sea, has Isak Dinesen, which is a Danish writer. It's a pen name of a female author. This is another one of my favorite stories, The Young Man with the Carnation. A very mysterious, gothic kind of story of a frustrated writer on the coast who kind of gets drawn into the nautical world and goes on a little adventure. Very beautiful. I will definitely be reading more of this author in the future. Isak Dinesen, I believe, from Denmark. Really excited about that. So that was another great discovery. One of the things I love about these collections is you discover authors that you otherwise wouldn't heard of, and then you can go and investigate their work more fully. Finally, Herman Melville, J.G. Ballard, and Mark Helprin. I didn't know Mark Helprin. I am a huge Herman Melville fan. He's written some of my favorite novels, and I've read most of his stories, but I hadn't read this one, which honestly was a little slight. It wasn't a amazingly rich short story. I like his Piazza Tales much better. But a good representation of authors there, a lot from the 19th century, a lot from the 20th century, kind of all over the place. And the tales vary in tone. There's some kind of nostalgic, wistful tales. There's some gothic sci-fi horror tales. There's all kinds of things, but it's all about, there's some adventure stories, there's some crime stories, but it's all about the allure of the sea. And if you're into that, as I am, you should check out Stories of the Sea by the Everyman Pocket Library. And I believe they have other collections of themed stories. I haven't really checked them out yet, but it's something I want to look into in the future to see what other kinds of themes are represented. So I'm really on a short story kick right now. I'm reading a lot more short stories, and there'll be more reviews of short story collections in the future. They're a lot of fun. It's sometimes nice not to have to spend days and days and days reading a narrative of a novel. I try to get through one a week, but sometimes it's hard, and if you're reading like a 600 or 700 page novel, you usually can't do it in a week. So it's nice to read something short, which is bite-sized. You can finish it in one sitting. And the same thing with writing them. It's nice to write something that you can write in 1 or 2 sittings and then move on to something else, because I've always tried to write novels, and it's such a grueling marathon of a endeavor. So I'm not trying to do that right now. I'm trying to write short stories. That's what I have to say about Stories of the Sea. Highly recommended. I really enjoyed this book, and I will be seeking out more of their collections in the future. Let me know if you have read any other Stories of the Sea that I should read, or any authors I should read, in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and come back every Wednesday for yet another book review with other videos about music and movies and other stuff sprinkled in throughout the week as I feel like it. That's all I have for today. I've been your host, Logan Albright. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.